podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Are you feeling a bit directionless?
No, and I think I'd be something of a hypocrite if I said I did. I think it's quite right for United to do the due diligence. That being said, I don't think it's really a case of due diligence holding this up. It's more like a negotiation and timing for the announcement. I'm sure they'll make the announcement fairly soon, possibly straight after the Southampton game, and Louis van Gaal it is. Seems like current interim manager with a 2/3 success rate so far. Ryan Giggs will be on the staff.
Yes, and I think that is very jolly, thoroughly good news, especially after he redeemed himself against Hull. So the Sunderland game, that was one heck of a disappointing team sheet, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he pulled out the Fergie Tombola big time, didn't he? I mean, we said that his first team selection against Norwich was Fergie-esque, and it was similar against Sunderland, although a lot of 6 changes, so which again is very Fergie-esque, isn't it? So a lot of strange changes as well. Pretty disappointing team sheet, hugely disappointing performance, very disjointed. Yeah, real shame. But I guess, you know, after the team sheet came out against Hull, you said on Twitter that this puts some context to the other 2 team selections. I think you were right about that. I think he's basically just giving a very wide selection of players a game, and there isn't necessarily a strategy here. He's not thought, well, I need to win these 4 games, therefore I'm picking teams to win. He's quite happy to rotate with no particular reason in mind other than everyone's going to have a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the moment at which that whole team sheet came out that suddenly that Sunderland game made sense. And actually, there is a sort of strategy in there somewhere of whoever comes in next should be really taking a very hard, long look at the so-called senior wide players in the squad, considering how vastly they were outclassed by players 10 years their junior. You know, or near enough 10 years their junior.
Yes, I mean, shall we talk about Sunderland? Because you talk about wide players. Nani and Young were abysmal, just abysmal. But, I mean, they weren't the only ones. Hernandez, terrible. Mata didn't have a good game. Fletcher, completely overrun in central midfield. Carrick, not much better than the back 4, horrendous. So, anyone come out of that well?
No.
I'm not sure. That was every bit as bad as the worst performances under David Moyes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would disagree with about what you said is I think Carrick was worse than Fletcher. I think that is, and there are some contenders for this, but that might be Michael Carrick's worst game in a Manchester United shirt. It was really, truly dire stuff. And
I have to say, what that distilled in my mind was that it wasn't just David Moyes that was the failure. Although he was a big part of the failure leading up to the season. And no one ever argued it was only him, and we certainly didn't do so on this podcast. But I think that kind of rammed it home in a way that there are players who've massively underperformed this season. And it might be, after a whole year of doing this, that we're now thinking they're good players on reputation and not merit. So I'm not really one for knee-jerk, wholesale squad changes need to happen, as tends to be the case on social media. I'm not sure that United need to buy another 12 players, as Robbie Savage says. But if you were analysing it purely on merit this season, then you probably would say that, wouldn't you? Because there's been some absolutely horrendous season-long performances, and the Sunderland game was a précis for a total failure of a campaign.
Yeah, I mean, next week will be the last Rantcast of the season, and I suppose we'll do end-of-season awards, and I'm sure there'll be a great deal more debate about who gets the worst player of the season type awards than who gets the best, because there are lots of people that have had really bad seasons, and many of them had really bad games against Sunderland. The one thing that really did slightly worry me from the Ryan Giggs perspective about that game was I think he made one of the worst substitutions I've ever seen in my life, because you mentioned that Juan Mata didn't have a great game, but he had a really great 10-minute period and United were thoroughly on top after Januzaj came on. But when he took Mata off and brought Van Persie and Welbeck on, taking Mata off meant it was completely redundant to put the other players on, because there was then no creativity on the pitch apart from Januzaj.
Well, yeah, and that was Moyes-esque, that substitution, wasn't it? And it was particularly disappointing. So, I mean, you're right to say that Mata was coming into the game and he looked like one of United's brighter players. I mean, that's relative. I don't think it was a great performance by him. But, Januzaj came on for Nani. That was thoroughly deserved, of course. But then pulling Mata off for Welbeck and Van Persie came on for Young, was it? If I remember correctly. And
yeah, the other way around, but yeah.
So, those three substitutions, I mean, basically changing out the three supporting players behind Hernandez. And it didn't quite make sense, did it? To pull off the man who might have produced the key pass.
Absolutely, and also Moyes-esque with the tactics. It was very get the ball out wide and who fit in, son.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, I don't think, actually I haven't looked at the data here, but I would suspect United haven't been quite as direct under Giggs. But they have been playing two wide players every game, or 3 games. That one interview I ever saw with him talking about his coaching was, I'd have a few wingers in there. That comes to mind. And maybe you'd expect that. I think what this does distill as well is the idea that Giggs still needs to learn his craft as a coach. He's worked under Ferguson for 25 years, but that's one perspective. And I think having a more enriched view of coaching will benefit him loads. And I think he can do that at the club or away. I'm sure he'll learn loads from Van Gaal when he comes in, and some new coaches are bound to come in too. And I think, maybe I'm just being optimistic here. I think that will be a nice blend. I think that's the link with the past. I think it's the link with the players. I think Giggs is too determined and too focused as a man, from everything I've heard of him and know of him, to let his link with the players cloud his judgment. But we'll see on that one. So I think it will be a nice balance. It'll all be tested in time, but I also think it'll be good for Giggs.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting moving on to the whole game, because there was a lot of discussion in the few days in between the two games. Lots of stuff about, Giggs might go, because maybe Van Gaal doesn't want him in the backroom staff and all that kind of stuff. And is there really some very serious negotiation going on with Van Gaal, sort of forcing Giggs on him in a way? I'm sure it'll all end up being, actually, it could well be the perfect blend. Although there is the counter view that says, actually, Giggs is too influential. But I don't think that'll turn out to be the case. And I'm with you on the optimism stakes here. I think there's plenty of cause to be optimistic about that combination. But while there was all that sort of talk about, will he, won't he, is he going to stay, will he leave, it was like a horrible sinking feeling of, like, oh my goodness, the last couple of years have just been really brutal with people leaving Man United. And on a very basic human level, don't want Giggs to go. I want him, as you said last week, really eloquently, there's real, genuine value in that link with the history of the club, and it should be kept on.
I agree. Totally. I think this is a positive move for Manchester United after a really difficult year, and there will be significant rebuilding in the summer because, frankly, even if you believe that some of these players can perform a lot better, they haven't earned it, and I think the new man really needs to make that change around. Otherwise, there's the risk of this season repeating itself, no matter how good the new coach is. Players now having a new sense of bloodlust for managers and player power. So I think there will be significant change. I think that's a good thing for United. I think it will cause plenty of disruption, and I don't think United are going to make changes from a position of strength either. But if they get this coaching set up right, they get the blend right, it looks like Kluivert will join with a new goalkeeping coach and a couple of fitness coaches from Van Gaal's camp. Danny Blind, it seems, is staying on in the Dutch national setup, but still as the assistant to Gus Hiddink. But I think will almost certainly carry on working both with the under-18s and Warren Joyce at reserve level. Scholes may well join him for the under-18 campaign and the UEFA under-18 or under-19 campaign. Giggs, it seems, will be given a senior coaching role, whether that's an assistant or a senior role of some kind. And Phil Neville, well, he may still put out the cones or he may leave elsewhere, but it feels like the right blend of external expertise, a manager who knows the scene, has been around all the big clubs. As we said last week, United will play good football. He has a very clear idea about what his philosophy is. It's actually a philosophy that's much closer to the way United's under-18 and under-21 teams play. Not exactly the tactical formation, but keep the ball, move, pass. Lots of players with technique over simply in a rigid formation, getting it wide and knocking it in, or any other kind of negative philosophy. So, it feels like if this all comes off as we think it is, it's a step forward, a big step forward for United.
Absolutely. And the whole game represented something of a step forward for Giggs' brief time at United. Once that team sheet was announced, there was, of course, great excitement because, there's a lot of mythology around United and the idea of the United way, but it's real for the fans. We as a group of fans genuinely want to see our young players coming through the ranks. Maybe that's the same at other clubs, but it's certainly incredibly important to the collective of United fans. And seeing that team sheet was just so exciting. And the fact that young James Wilson scored at under 18, under 19, under 21 and senior level for Manchester United this season, to get a brace on your debut, even though Hull were not any great shakes, it's still a pretty spectacular achievement for the young man, isn't it?
Oh, very much. And United were pretty dominant in that game. I mean, it was a Hull side. They'd mixed up the formation and the selection, thinking about the FA Cup game to come. I mean, of course, United had done the same too, but it just felt like it gave United a bit of a impetus and a confidence injection. And we talked about Wilson earlier this season. I do really like him. I think he's got a future at United. I mean, it's not guaranteed by any means, of course not, but he's got plenty in his locker to worry Premier League defences. Maybe he's not mature enough yet. Maybe a loan spell would really do him good. I guess they'll work that one out over the summer, especially if United go and recruit some senior players, but he's got loads. I mean, he can play in multiple different positions. He certainly has done this season. He's kind of had to, given how much change there's been at under 21 level in particular. Lightning quick, and he can really finish. So got the whole package, and it was a really great debut for him. Couple of goals, couple of strikers' goals, really. He can be proud of that, and I think he'll play a lot of games for United. It's a guess, but I think he will.
Yeah, I think you might be right. In the first 5 minutes of that game, Januzaj got the ball and absolutely leathered it, running at Hull. And he was eventually given man of the match by the retweet thing, which, considering Wilson got 2 goals, was pretty impressive and entirely deserved. Adnan Januzaj put on a kind of a masterclass. And I was thinking about...
It was brilliant. Well, he got the ball and he was very, very direct, wasn't he? He got the ball, ran at people. He played very, very high up the pitch. I mean, nominally off the right, but very, very high. He was almost alongside Wilson for much of the game. And I thought excellent performance from him. Very good as well, because we haven't seen much of him in the second half of the season.
No, and that's kind of what Liverpool did with Raheem Sterling last season. And we've seen the fruits that are coming to bear from that, right? He's had an excellent season this time round.
I don't think you should be talking about fruits when it comes to Raheem Sterling. Fruits of his loins are spread all over Merseyside.
Yeah, could have done without the second half of that, really, Ed. I think we all knew what you meant.
Just wanted you to have a mental picture there, Paul.
Thanks a lot. Talking of Van Gaal coming in, Giggs playing 4-3-3 in the second half with Lawrence on the left, Januzaj on the right, Wilson in the middle, and then a midfield 3 of Kagawa, Carrick and Fellaini.
Yeah, Fellaini was very close to Wilson quite a lot, wasn't he? I mean, he's basically playing at number 10.
He was.
That was the nightmare scenario that we thought David Moyes would play, but Moyes, he never played him there, basically. And there you go. Giggs comes in, and the first time he's played the fella, he's played him up top.
I mean, I guess it's because he's realised of whatever Marouane Fellaini is, central midfielder is not it. Not a good game from poor old fellas. But anyway, I'd be very tempted to sell him in the summer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I don't see where he fits in a squad with Van Gaal. I mean, he does like an evil bastard in the middle of the park, but we found out that Fellaini is not that.
He's evil, but in a really snidey, cowardly way.
Yeah, I'd sell him. I'd take the loss. I mean, there will be someone who will pay about half of what United paid for him, and I'd just get rid. It's too late. He's not going to come good. United are not going to get a return on their investment with Fellaini. I don't think there's any manager they bring in that is likely to use him in the way that is going to get the best out of him. United don't play like that. It was a horrendous purchase, and I hope United will learn a lot from that. I mean, they've made bad mistakes in the past, of course, and it'll always happen because they don't always come right. This one was an obviously bad mistake, which is unusual. I don't think there are too many players that in the last 20 years that have been bought and we've gone, oh dear. Maybe Bebe. But not too many.
But even Bebe, like, it wasn't oh dear until we'd all seen him.
Well, quite,
so I think
yeah.
everyone's first assumption is, I wonder if he's going to... Especially it came on the back of the Hernandez transfer. So there was a sense of optimism about that, which there was from some people about Fellaini, but not from us, I guess.
Well, maybe the mentally ill and those hallucinating.
Yeah. Lawrence, a fine debut, actually. I was going to make a point about Januzaj, which was that when he got the ball really early and ran at players, I was thinking, how great must that be for Lawrence and Wilson in terms of like, okay, lads, you know how we used to play together in the youth team, this is what we do in the senior team. It's the same. You just play football. And, you know, seeing their mate, basically, who was at their level a year ago, doing it on the big stage, it must have, I would have thought, given them a real sense of comfort to see him go at them like that.
Yeah. You know what, off the top of my head, I can't remember how many times Wilson might have played with Januzaj. Probably not that many, actually, since Wilson was really with the under-18s and the academy last season. But no, I take your point. Very, very good. And the thing about Tom Lawrence is, I mean, it's deserved because he's had a decent campaign at reserve under 21 level. I'm not convinced that he's going to make it at United. I have to say, I'm not sure there's that little extra that you need. But we'll see. I think he'll have a decent career. If I was a betting man, I would say it would probably be down a division, but we'll see. You know, players do surprise, don't they?
Yeah, they do, absolutely. And lots of people saying, I as always, like, be very clear, I don't follow the teams closely. I just sort of read up on the people that do follow them closely, and lots of people saying Lawrence has really improved since his loan spell at Yeovil, and that's made a really big difference to him. So good luck to that. You know, the odds are, of course, always that they're not going to make it, right? It's a much safer bet to, and when I say make it, I mean make it at United. It's a much safer bet to say they're not going to make it at United because a tiny percentage of them do. But it's Wilson and Januzaj. Well, Januzaj absolutely, I don't know, anyone still doubting that kid, I mean, I think he's going absolutely all the way, unless some horrible thug ruins his life. Another disgusting stamp on Januzaj. And the FA today being Wednesday as we record this, ruling out any retrospective action against David Mailer, the man who, it turns out, Alan Pardew did not headbutt hard enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pardew clearly knew something. So I haven't actually read up on the latest FA statement on that one. I mean, I saw the stamp, and of course there was retrospective action against the Fulham player earlier this season for stamping on Januzaj too. So is this the FA saying they can't take action against the player who's booked? Was he booked for it?
I think not, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure, but I don't think that's why they said they weren't taking retrospective action. But
right. Now I seem to remember Mailer getting a card, but I actually can't remember at what point he got it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That's the one way that Januzaj's future could be put into some doubt if he gets a serious injury, you know, or even quite a lot of minor injuries. The players do tend to get very physical with him because he goes past people so easily. You know, he's got that wonderful balance. I mean, Ronaldo got the same treatment, didn't he? And his reaction to that was to man up big time. He got in the gym and he pushed weights until no one could bully him anymore because he was stronger than the rest of them. And I think that'll do Januzaj some good as well, just to bulk up just a little bit. Not too much, because that balance is beautiful, but I'm sure they can find the right training program for him. I think he's going to have a really big season next season. I think Van Gaal will be a good coach for him. He's a reputation of going easier on the youth players than the senior players. He's very, very, very demanding, but especially of his senior players. And he does bring in a lot of youth players. And of course, the Ajax side of 95 was made up of, like 11, 12-year-olds, wasn't it? So maybe not quite, but it was certainly a Michael Jackson wet dream. And so he's got that kind of reputation. I think he'll be good. It's
just like unnecessarily disgusting.
What, my pronunciation of Van Gaal? Clearly.
It's just so exciting that Van Gaal's coming in, but I guess we'll talk about that more next week, because we'll presumably know for absolutely sure by then. Yeah, so the whole game, I think that basically covers everything I can think of that I wanted to talk to about it, apart from the sheer incredible emotion at the end. I mean, this season has ended on a really strangely amazing high, given what a terrible season it's been, just because like we've had the Giggs thing and that's been super fun, especially when there was a moment during that Sunderland game where it's like, oh no, is this just going to be Moyes all over again? But no, like the whole thing was brilliant. The young players, the Wilson getting a brace, and then, you know, Giggs' speech was really classy, and he mentioned Vidic, and of course the crowd burst into song, and Giggs just let, I don't know, like 8 bars of the Vidic song just go before jumping in again. It was really moving and artfully handled.
Now's your time to stand by your manager. No, wait there. That wasn't Giggsy, was it?
No, he said he promised to bring the good times back, and then they all wandered around the pitch. Nemanja gave a very moving speech. I want to thank you from bottom of heart. It was like really lovely. And then the crowd all singing to him. He's standing right in front of them. Robin Van Persie's there joining in the song.
Very, very good impression of Stavros, the old Harry Enfield character there.
Hi, everybody, peeps.
or Dr. Nick. Not quite sure which one it is, but very good, yeah.
This is outrageous. Seeing Vidic, the reality that Vidic is leaving, I don't know, it made me reflect on his career at United, and he really has achieved remarkable things at United, hasn't he?
8.5 years of mostly outstanding performances. Quite a few injuries in there. I have to say, I doubt the value of him playing every week, especially in the last month, but most of the second half of the season, I think it was a mistake to allow him to... Probably a mistake to allow him to go, although he's coming to the end of his time at the very highest level, but definitely a mistake to allow him to publicise a transfer halfway through the season. So it doesn't leave too much of a sour taste in my mouth, though. I think he's been outstanding for United, a real leader. He puts in, you know, the kind of performances fans love, doesn't he? Blood and thunder, but he's also been a very, very classy player. Formed with Ferdinand, I think the best central defensive partnership in Europe for a couple of seasons, just sort of around the 2007, 2008, 2009 time frame. Those 3 years, outstanding. Been a great purchase for United. Didn't cost very much. So what, 7 million, and he's been outstanding. It's going to be very difficult to replace him.
Yeah, absolutely. And worth a mention that it wasn't just Ferdinand and Vidic, was it? It was Ferdinand, Vidic, and Van der Sar, and it felt like between the three of them, we were just impenetrable. You know, it was a heck of a combination. And yeah, like Vidic, obviously that kind of warrior footballer. He's in that mould, and it's a justified reputation, because I don't think I've ever seen him afraid of anything physically. You know, he's an incredibly physical defender, but in a world where that doesn't mean what it used to mean. It doesn't mean hurting the opposition. It means, I don't know, it almost means hurting yourself more than the opposition.
Well, Van Persie said he's not afraid to put his head where other players are afraid to put their boot, and that's about right.
They always used to say that about Brian Robson, didn't they?
Yeah, but Brian Robson was made of glass, so it was rather unfortunate with him. So, but as we now know, it was the drink that caused that as well.
Well, I tell you, talking of made of glass and Brian Robson, young Phil Jones going off with some sort of arm/shoulder injury.
Yeah, really unfortunate, and let's hope it's not as serious as it looked. And he had a slightly odd game, didn't he? Because he started in central defence, but basically played in midfield all the time. I'm not sure that was a tactical decision, but he was bombing forward quite a bit. But yeah, really, really unfortunate.
I mean, so we're going to do Twitter questions in just a minute. But let's do a preview. At Dave Little 81 says, after Phil Jones's moment of stupidity last night, does he lack the intelligence to reach the very top? And at Prac Rules says, a train travels from A to B at 130 miles per hour. If 12 people on board weigh 80 kilograms each, why did Phil Jones dive into that tackle? And you said it was unfortunate, but the problem with Phil Jones is that it's not about unfortunateness. He's making really bad physical decisions a lot. These are a lot of injuries that are caused by him being not afraid enough to put his head where other people wouldn't put their feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair comment, I think, and it's... What is it? It's him being a bit naive. It's him not being very experienced. It's him not quite reading the game and his body. It's him having to learn the trade a bit quicker than he is. I mean, players do seem to do it at different rates. I mean, we always used to talk about Ferdinand when he was very young, and when he was at West Ham and then Leeds United about there being a mistake there because concentration went. Over the years, that stopped, didn't it? And there were so many games where he was completely mistake-free. But it took him a while to learn to become the central defender that he was. Phil Jones got all the tools to be really, really, really good. And, I guess he needs to make less impetuous tackles. He needs to not get himself injured. On the actual playing side of things, he needs to learn how to read the game because he doesn't do that bit very well. But he's going to get a chance to do it next season. Unless United do spend a lot of money on a couple of senior central defenders, he's going to play a lot of games next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be really interesting to see if they do. So after the heightened emotion of the Old Trafford crowd and all that, Robin Van Persie looked as happy as I've seen him since he was holding the Community Shield earlier this season. Absolutely grinning from ear to ear when interviewed last night and said, we're going to be back next season and you can save this. And it was just like, he knows Louis van Gaal's coming. He knows better than anyone else at the club what that means. And he is absolutely convinced that we're going to be competing right back at the top level. And you can see why, can't you?
Well, he's going to be fit all season. He's going to score 30 goals. So, and any team that's got a striker that scores 30 goals will be around the top, won't they? So his Moyesitis has miraculously cured itself, and quite remarkable how he came back from Holland injury-free, wasn't it, the week that Moyes left. And great to see him get a goal. I'm sure he'll start at Southampton now and end the season on a high. Hopefully he'll have a very good World Cup, get a nice break, come back to United raring to go again.
Absolutely. So, Twitter questions. Having cruelly abandoned our audience last week, carved out a chunk of the show to do these before we do a brief preview of the Southampton game. So, at Carrick is God, it's not really a question this, just said, just want to reiterate how much of an emotional wreck I am after last night. Signed Wilson to long-term deal on Football Manager. Very understandable, good decision, young man. At Tad Davis 31, talking of long-term deals, says, can we give David De Gea a 10-year contract extension?
I suppose in theory that won't happen. I'm sure they're going to give him a contract extension, of course. Keep him out of the clutches of those evil Spaniards at Real Madrid and Barcelona and anyone else who might want to have him.
I'll tell you, I'm really worried that Atletico Madrid will have him. Because if they're going to win the Champions League and the league and stuff, we've got someone else to worry about.
Yes, but you'd have to take a large pay cut, so it's unlikely to happen, I'd say. So I'm sure they'll get that deal sorted at some point. Real still haven't quite worked out what they're doing with the goalkeeper. Have they changed it depending on cup games or league games? And Barcelona look like they're buying Andre ter Stegen from Borussia Mönchengladbach, which I said a lot better than I actually said his name. And he's very, very good young goalkeeper as well. And that ought to mean that De Gea is staying at United.
Yeah, we really hope so. And I'm sure that, as long as we're competing at the top of the game, De Gea will stay around. I'm confident of that. He's obviously not unhappy at United by any stretch of the imagination, is he? So it will just be he's way too good if we don't compete at the very top.
Yeah. Well, not to preface our Player of the Season award, which will come next week.
You mean?
But he's United's Player of the Season, isn't he?
I was going to say, you mean the David De Gea award? That's, yeah. At Connor J. Donnelly says, do you believe in retiring numbers? Would it be fitting to retire number 11 for Giggs, or better for someone else to step in? And I absolutely, I'm fine with other clubs retiring their numbers, but there is no way United should retire numbers. It comes down to that United...
Well, you wouldn't have any numbers left.
Well...
That's how many legends we've got.
Well, the thing is, it is that legacy of legends thing. It is that United philosophy. It's the Busby Babes, the Fergie fledglings. One group comes after another group, and players go into legend and they get a statue made out of them, but the legacy remains on the pitch. There should always be a brilliant number 11 at Manchester United,
Well, that's right. I mean, the Fergie fledglings, definitely. Russell Beardsmore. I'd have retired his number.
Somebody at Johnny Gabriel, a brilliant Twitter person, said during the whole game, an ex-captain is managing the opposition side. There's a bunch of kids. A kid has scored a couple of goals. This just needs Clayton Blackmore to give it the full testimonial.
Nice. Very nice.
While doing the lap of honour at Old Trafford, it looked as if Rooney had to keep telling Cleverly to clap, says at Chuckety Chuck. I think he's going. What are your thoughts?
I don't know whether he's going to go. It wouldn't surprise me. I think he's gone backwards as a player. Van Gaal, I think, is a student of the game. I think he'll know a lot about Manchester United's players, and I'm not sure he fits into a Van Gaal system. So when I think about a Van Gaal system, in my mind I think about a defensive player, a box-to-box and a creative. And I don't know which of those Cleverly is, and that's of course part of the problem. So I don't know that he's going. I don't know what that has to do with him clapping per se, other than if he's being a miserable git. But he should think about his sponsors really and give it some. But we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me at all. He's probably a saleable asset. United get a good fee for him and can reinvest it elsewhere. I wouldn't be too upset if he went. If he doesn't, he's squad filler, and that's about it.
At Bjorn Olsen asks, should and could Michael Carrick leave this summer also?
Well, I do think United need to bring in 2 absolutely top-class central midfielders, and maybe that will get the best out of Carrick. I think there's a risk in United shedding all the experience. I mean, if Ferdinand's going and Vidic is going, Evra may or may not go. Fletcher, we're not sure about his long-term future. Giggs will probably retire and become a coach. So there's a loss of experience about to leave the United squad. Michael Carrick's the only sort of experienced central midfielder who might justify getting himself in the team. So I do think United need to bring a lot of quality. That'll provide a lot of competition for Carrick. Maybe Carrick will drop out the side as a result. I'm not sure that flogging him would be top of my agenda.
No, mine neither. At 6Sammy9 asks, normal fries or curly fries?
Cheese fries. I go the full American on this one. Cheese fries are the chili cheese fries are the business.
This is what being married to an American does to you, isn't it, Ed? You've got funny ideas about fries. Chips, lad. Chips all the way. No, I think I'd go curly fries, given the choice between the two. At Bocce says, what is your predicted 11 for next season if we play in a Louis van Gaal 4-3-3 with a maximum of 4 new players in the lineup?
Oh, well, this is one of those questions where you need to warn us beforehand so we can do a bit of research. So let's go. De Gea, Raphael, Jones, new central defender, Mats Hummels.
Yeah.
Or Benatia at Roma. I think Hummels is probably more realistic. That's how expensive Benatia would be. New left back. I've mentioned a few I like before. Shaw would be a very good purchase. Very, very, very expensive. Rodriguez at Wolfsburg I like a lot. Kazawa at Monaco I like a lot. Felipe, I do like him. He's very high quality, but also would be extremely expensive, and he's a bit old. So Shaw would be my bet there. I think 2 new central midfielders. One being a right evil bastard, one being a box-to-boxer. So maybe a Vidal and a Pogba. we can. He said we're allowed to get 4 new players. He didn't say it was realistic.
Okay. Oh no, but he said realistic starting 11. I think.
No,
predicted starting 11. It is not dream starting 11.
Neither of those 2 in that case. I'm not sure who United will bring in central midfield. That's a really difficult one because the top quality is going to be very expensive.
I think this is the biggest question for the summer, and again, we'll talk about this in detail next week, but there are no easy answers. There are no obvious available central midfielders. All the central midfielders we're linked with are a long shot. In fact, to be honest, at the moment, it feels like almost all the players we're linked with are a long shot, apart from Luke Shaw. Everyone else feels like they're currently in potentially a better situation they would be if they came to United. So this is a huge issue. But yeah, so let's say we could get Tony Kroos. Maybe go like Kroos, Carrick, Mata, maybe. It's a bit lightweight though, isn't it?
It is a bit lightweight. I mean, Kroos doesn't fit any of those natural pigeonholes that I just mentioned there. He's played a lot of games in a deeper position for Bayern Munich, but he's kind of the player you give the ball to, and it just shows in the amount of touches he has per game. He has well over 100 touches per game. He's right up near the top of the most passes made in the Champions League this season. He might even be at the top of it. And so I think he'd be a very good purchase because he's a very high quality player. There are some definite frustrations I think United would have with him. He slows the game down all the time. He's not a player who moves it quickly. He is very deliberate in his passing, but he's very progressive in it as well. So it would be a good player. I I wonder whether he's quite the right one.
Yeah, this is a good question. And then, so the 4-3-3, up the three up top, I guess you go Van Persie, Welbeck and Januzaj. That's my dream three up top.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Van Persie, Januzaj and maybe Royce at Dortmund, who's been outstanding this season from that position. I mean, he drifts inside a lot, but he can definitely start left and come inside. He's much more comfortable at doing that than, say, Shinji Kagawa.
Good point. And Shinji, there's a role for him somewhere in that 4-3-3, in the first three, somewhere in there.
Yes, I think United should keep him. I think him and Mata can compete, and I don't see any reason why Shinji wouldn't get a lot of games there. I think Mata's got more in his locker, of course, but he needs to show it.
Yeah, absolutely. At Benny Hudson says, is it just me that thinks that Beve might actually have had more to offer this team than Fellaini? That's virtual friend of the Rantcast at Benny Hudson.
Well, yeah, maybe. So I don't think we saw much of him in the United shirt, let's be honest. And what we did see of him was often really, really woeful. I mean, he looked like a man who had no idea how to actually play the game, even though he might have some raw skills. And those raw skills have definitely come out this season because he scored a bunch of absolutely blinding goals. But no, I'm not sure. I mean, we haven't seen anything from Fellaini, so it's not like if we'd only been allowed to have 24 players this season and Fellaini was the man who got the chop that we'd have lost loads.
No, there's like 3 games where he was pretty good against small Premier League clubs. Bottom half of the table Premier clubs, should I say. At the Magical Juan says, will there be space for the likes of Zaha, Wilson, Lawrence, Powell and Lingard in the first team next season? I think this is a very good question, and so much of it depends on who comes in the summer. Out of that list, jumping out, I would say there's room for Wilson in the squad, especially if Hernandez leaves as the fourth centre forward. I think there's potentially room for Jesse Lingard in a positional sense because he can definitely play coming off the wing in a 4-3-3. That would not be a problem for Lingard.
No, I think it'd probably be his best position. Yeah, we'll see. Will Van Gaal think enough of him to give him that role? I mean, it really depends on where United invest, doesn't it? So Zaha, the same there, really. I mean, he hasn't shown anything at Cardiff that says the penny has dropped with him yet. And speaking to some Cardiff fans, they all moan that he doesn't pass the ball quick enough, which was the moan that I had last summer when he signed. So, he just needs to learn how to play the game better because he's got all the raw skills. Because he's photographed outside Selhurst Park after Crystal Palace held Liverpool spectacularly. And Suarez cried a lot. And Gerrard might have cried too, although he was trying to hide it.
So we had a little discussion about this, and as regular listeners will know, I don't really relate to football in the same tribal way that many do, and I've certainly never defined my support of United in opposition to United's traditional enemies, but don't really like Liverpool very much at the moment since that Suarez everything and the way the club behaved. I mean, I sort of prefer them now under Rodgers because there's something comical about Rodgers, the whole Stephen, go get the guitar after they lose, the David Brent factor. But that was the absolute distilled essence of Schadenfreude, wasn't it, Ed?
Oh, it was magic. It was utterly magic. There was joy bursting out. And I don't care how small time that sounds. I defy a Manchester United fan to not enjoy Suarez bawling his eyes out after Liverpool completely capitulated to Crystal Palace. It was fantastic.
I mean, I'm still currently, it's 9:15 on Wednesday night. City have just scored against Aston Villa, so we're sort of slightly more confident that there's not going to be some massive City-itis. I mean, I have to say, for me, I suppose this is partly influenced by being an out-of-town Red, but also it's just growing up with completely surrounded by Liverpool fans my whole life. Liverpool, I'm way, way, way rather City won the league than Liverpool, because also you can write off City winning the league as some sort of, financially altered freak, but if Liverpool won it actually properly on merit, that would be really unsettling.
Yeah, 2-0 to City as we speak, so I think the title is going to Eastlands. And look, I totally agree with you. I think we just write off City because they just cheated, basically, as UEFA have stipulated. by failing them under the financial fair play rules. And I know City fans don't like it, and I know this is really tribal, and as much of football is, of course, and the analysis of financial fair play does get very tribal, but I have to say I agree with most of the rules. I know there are consequences of those rules, principally the most negative bit, locking in the established status quo, making it much harder for clubs to grow inorganically. But City are basically just cheating. It's like a computer game. And so you can write off their win. Of course, Blues will enjoy it. I work with a Blue, and he'll enjoy it, no doubt. But, you would have to begrudgingly respect Liverpool winning this, because they've come from 7th, they've played very good football, they've scored a load of goals, they have a manager who, yes, he's David Brent, but he has a very clear philosophy, and he's shown that he can execute on it, and that was a big doubt about him. He's getting more than the sum of the parts out of that squad, albeit a squad that hasn't had to play European football. I think he said he's going to have to add 5 or 6 players. I think that's about right. This was Liverpool's big shot. It might take them a while to have another shot at it, but you'd have to begrudgingly respect it, and no one wants that in Manchester. So yeah, City it is. I mean, I was kind of hoping they'd all lose the games and Chelsea would win it, because the lesser of 3 very bad evils.
That's got its real problems though, isn't it? Because you got to watch John Terry lift the thing. I don't think I find any of the City players particularly odious, I have to say, whereas Chelsea and Liverpool have certainly got their share of odious players. The Steven Gerrard slip thing, man. I mean, of course this has been done to death because it happened a few days ago and it's the internet, so we've been bombarded with memes and videos and vines and the whole works. But to be there shouting, "This does not bleeping slip," and then
just brilliant.
Slip over. It's like, and then they're 3-0 up against Crystal Palace and they draw 3-3. It is like David Moyes left, the curse was broken, and Alex Ferguson got to be in charge of the FA again or something.
Yeah, the Illuminati have started working their magic again. They took a little break there for a while. But, you know what? Ferguson used to talk about Devon Lock,
yes.
In the Grand National in the 1960s, who fell over at the last hurdle when there were no other horses in the race, that kind of thing. He used to talk about that all the time. And it's just a shame that he's retired when Devon Lock has happened in the Premier League. And, it's not quite as spectacular as Newcastle's blow up in what was it, 95, 96, but it's not far off it, and it's quite a joy to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really quite something, because it really looked like they had it. But anyway, let's move on from talking about Liverpool, because we might be a bit small time, but we're not that small time. At Tom_McGee says, your left arm is either replaced with Ryan Giggs or he has to leave the club. What do you do?
I'm not sure I follow this. I have to replace my left arm with the whole of Ryan Giggs.
Ryan Giggs, yeah, exactly.
He's stuck to my shoulder.
Left arm the whole time. So you have control over Ryan Giggs' limbs, but he definitely has independent thought and can talk to you. I think that would get really tiring.
It would, but he'd be a good wingman, wouldn't he?
Like literally a wingman if he was your arm.
Yeah, there you go.
But imagine trying to get comfortable at night if Ryan Giggs was one of your arms.
It's a bit strange, this conversation, but yeah, yeah,
it is. I would take him leaving the club. I'm sorry, everyone. I wouldn't own that sacrifice. Talking of things that don't make any sense, United's last game of the season is completely meaningless. We have, I think, next to no chance of Europa League qualification, which is maybe another reason why Giggs played young and nanny in that game after Tottenham had messed it up. And we could still finish 6th. And that would really be unfortunate, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it basically would be. I mean, if you want United to get back into the top 4 and even challenge for the title next season, I think not being in the Europa League is a very good thing. I mean, it has a lot of positives. Actually, United get away with a slightly smaller squad next year, more chances for some younger players, but also can then spend the money in the right areas on very high quality players and spend it on a few really expensive players rather than spreading it around a bit. That's a good thing. The flip side of this is that, two things. It's good for the club to be in the Europa League, the exposure and the money and the revenue uplift as a result is basically worth a world-class player. And if we're not in the Europa League, we'll probably end up doing a bit of Harlem globetrotting and playing friendlies in far-off lands in the middle of the season. And remember how that turned out this year. They might not have played a game in Dubai, but they did a lot of drinking and partying. Maybe Van Gaal won't stand for it, but I'm not sure United flying off to the Middle East to play a couple of mid-season friendlies is a good idea either.
Yeah, it was brilliant in the pre-Sunderland game press conference when people were asking Giggs what his experience of being manager was like, and he was saying, trying to work out what they're going to do if they get into Europa League, and they've got the pre-season tour and people are just coming back from the World Cup. And it did look like these are plates that are impossible to juggle. But as you say, there's this enormous matchday revenue that's lost if they don't do the Europa League. I know that the hardcore travelling away in Europe Reds would rather we were in the Europa League so they can go around and have that experience in new places. You know, I'm sure the trip to Amsterdam was a bit of a highlight of last season for many people.
Yeah, well, let's not forget there are some very high-quality teams in that league. Yeah, I mean, teams that drop out of the Champions League, but also some very, very high-quality teams that just qualified for the Europa League. I mean, look at the semi-finals. Benfica versus Juventus was as good as many Champions League games this season. Very high-quality, very exciting stuff. The Benfica-Sevilla final will be a very high-quality game. You know, there's some really good teams there. No guarantee United would win it by any stretch.
No, I think it's pretty unlikely they would win it because I think there'd be heavy rotation, as there should be, because it wouldn't be a priority, would it? And I think the key to all this is, if we want to win the league next season, or just be back and in effect in a big way next season, not being in the Europa League is going to be a huge part of that. So with all that in mind, no idea whatsoever what's going to happen in that Southampton game. Don't know if they'll be trying, because they've had a heck of a season and you'd think they'd want to end it on a high, and they've got some players going to the World Cup, and maybe they won't be too keen on the old 50-50s and all that sort of thing.
Well, I think it'll play out like a dead rubber last game of the season game. You know, there might be some sunshine and it'll be played at a slightly slower pace, and the intensity will go, and they'll play out a 1-1 draw.
All right, sounds good. So I guess if that's your prediction for that, what on earth is your prediction for Ryan Giggs' last managerial 11?
I think it will be in goal, Giggs, right back Giggs, central defence, Giggs and Giggs. Giggs at left back, Giggs in the 3 in midfield, and Giggs in the 3 up front, and he'll score the only goal.
There was definitely a moment where he brought himself on, where you could think he was running on going, Giggsy 1, Fergie 0. You could never do this, could you, lad? Giggsy 1, Fergie 0. Because no, I'm sure Sir Alex would have wanted to bring himself on up front a few times in his early years at Manchester United.
Oh, I'm sure he would have. Giggsy had a good crack at that free kick as well.
It was brutal, wasn't that brutal when the keeper saved that?
Shame. I think he probably won't keep up that record of scoring in every Premier League season. Might well be his last game for the club as a player. That is.
He's got to put himself on the bench, hasn't he? I mean, he might not because he did it at Old Trafford, but I really want him to. I really hope he does, and I hope he does. Like, we do get that last minute penalty, and it was a heck of a free kick as well. And the goalkeeper apologised afterwards for saving it.
Yeah, so what's your prediction for the game?
Giggs hasn't got a draw yet, has he? I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. There you go.
2-2, very good. Yeah, look, no reason why it shouldn't be a good game. I mean, nothing really to play for either side, but everyone will be watching the top and the bottom of the league. Although I think the top is less certain than the bottom, or maybe not anymore. I don't know. Certainly some stuff to play for still.
Yeah, not much though. There's been a few last days of the season with an awful lot more riding on it than this. So long as City don't massively muck it up, and as long as Sunderland don't massively muck it up, I think it's going to be pretty quiet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. Anyway, before we go, we have a competition this week.
That's good.
We do, and I thought we should do this competition this week, because next week I have to give the prize out, and otherwise you'll be waiting all summer for it. Friend of the Rantcast, Tatiana MUFC on Twitter, she does those pencil drawings, you may well have seen them, has offered to do a personalised pencil drawing of your choice. So one lucky winner. Oh,
that is absolutely awesome. And I'm going to chuck in a second place prize for this one. And it's going to be a copy of the programme from the 5-5 draw between West Bromwich Albion and Manchester United at the end of last season, which was, of course, Fergie's last game. It's got a big section all about Fergie's last game in it. So
very nice. Very nice. Well, so we need a prize question. So why don't you tell us who the picture should be of? and in what moment. And the funniest one wins, judged by Paul.
Let's go funniest / most pulling on the heartstrings. It does not necessarily got to be hilarious. It could also be really emotional and stirring to sort of fit with the tone of the end of this season.
Fair enough. And Suarez bawling his eyes out doesn't count. It's got to be a United player, I'm afraid.
So this time next week, no doubt we'll be back to announce the very, very exciting news that Louis van Gaal is going to be Manchester United's next manager. In the meantime, if you want to get hold of Ed, you can get him at United Rant on Twitter. I'm at UTD Rantcast, and you can get us both on facebook.com/United Rant. You can read all the stuff that Ed writes at unitedrant.co.uk and read my stuff over at the Bleacher Report. And if you want to help out with the bandwidth costs and all that sort of stuff for the show, you can hit us up at unitedrant.co.uk/donate. And it's worth saying at this point, we're going to do a show next week, big end of season spectacular. And then we're going to have a few weeks off, and then we're going to do, I think, 4 shows across the course of the World Cup. We've worked out all the dates. It's going to be every Friday during the World Cup. Then we're going to have a little bit time off and come back. Maybe on a new day next week. We might be moving to a Sunday record, Monday release, but all that is still to be totally decided. The next season part, but the World Cup podcasts are definitely happening, so we hope you'll join us for them.
We certainly will. We're looking forward to it. We've got one final game of what has been a disastrous season. Let's make sure it's a good one, hey, and we'll see you next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.